Hi, my name is Paulina Chin. I'm the co-chair of the Contribute program for the Maple Conference. I really hope that you enjoyed the first 2 days of the conference. Um, I'm really excited about today. We're doing a number of workshops, 3 workshops of which this is the first. I hope if you find today's workshops useful, please let us know when we seek feedback after the conference because it'll give us a good reason to continue doing these workshops at next year's conference. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Mike Carvalho. He's going to be keeping an eye on the chat. And Mike, could you also post the link, Mike or Kashka, if you could post the link
Yes, I
to
can.
the workbook.
It's already there.
Okay, perfect. So if you go to the chat, you're going to find a link to my Maple Cloud workbook. Please download it and open it with your copy of Maple. And preferably, if you have Maple 2025, that would be great because I'll be referring to some of the things in 2025. But if you don't want to install it right away and you have your other version of Maple, you should be able to follow along. So that's the first order of business. What is this workshop about? Well, I gave a talk earlier this in this conference about organizing and sharing content in Maple, and also Rob Corliss did a talk on Maple transactions and publishing papers there. This workshop will cover some of the material from those talks, except that we'll go more in depth. And also, what's different is I'm encouraging you to actually use Maple as I talk, so that you can. I find that that's the best way to reinforce things. Uh, so first of all, I'm just going to very briefly show some examples. Then I'm going to say a little bit more about Maple transactions and talk about our Maple templates that are there. Um, then the bulk of the workshop will really be this part, reworking your content, where we'll work through some of the ideas introduced at the other sessions and get you to try things out. So one thing I'm hoping that you might do if you're on this call is to find maybe some of your own Maple worksheets and actually do the actions on your own material so that you can get a head start on reworking your own papers and your own material and preparing them for presentation or for publication. If you don't have any handy or you're relatively new to Maple, don't worry because I'll give a sample document that you could use to work on as well. But if you have your own material, that's even better. Uh, let's see. We're going to have the chat going. Mike will keep an eye on the chat and answer any questions that you might have if he's able to answer them, or he'll let me know. And I also would encourage you to, since we're not going to be that large a group and this is supposed to be interactive, feel free to just speak out if you have a question, and I don't mind interruptions. All right. Let's see. What else do I want to say? So by the way, I realized when talking about the cloud that it wasn't a specific part of this talk, but I realized that not everybody is familiar with how to put documents in the cloud like the one that I had uh, provided. So what you do is you go to your top right-hand corner, and here it gives my profile because I've already signed in. But um, if you haven't signed in yet, then you can sign in or create an account. If you're already on Maple Primes or you use Maple Learn, it's the same account. And then if you want to upload, hold on, I've got to move some of my own windows around. If you want to upload a file, then you do save to cloud, and you'll see things in Maple Cloud. And if I click on my files, then then creating papers and reports in Maple, that that appears there, and I can create a share link, which I have and shared with you. So that's how the Maple Cloud works, in case some of you are not familiar with it. All right. Okay, I'm just going to start, like I said, before we do to the real hands-on stuff, I'm going to just do a short introduction, give you some examples of papers and reports created in Maple. So here's an example of a research paper. And I'll click to the, okay, are you able to see the, hopefully you can, I set my Zoom properties correctly so that I can show web pages. Anyways, this is an example of a paper, and let me just open it in here.
Paulina, just quickly, there's a question from Omer regarding the
Yeah.
cloud. How do I share from the cloud, the material on the
Oh,
cloud?
sure. I can quickly just show that again. Let me hold on. Let me just open this. Then I can quickly show that again. So if sorry, I just have to wait for Maple to load. Okay. And move my Zoom controls out of the way. So once you're signed into the cloud and you've uploaded your files, if you go to my file, so see creating papers and reports in Maple, this is the one I shared with you. The way I shared it with you was I clicked on the share icon and this says use a link. I just copied that link, and with that link, anybody who has that link will have access to be able to see the file, a preview of the file in the Maple Cloud, and then share the link with someone else. There's more you can do with the cloud. You can make private groups and share with a certain group of people. But the easiest way, if you just want to put something up that people can get access to from the browser, that's the way you do it. So hopefully that answered your question. Were there any other questions?
No, just a quick note that in case you didn't see the link to the worksheet, since you might have logged in later, I just reposted it again, so you can download it from the cloud. If you check the chat again, you should now see the link for the worksheet that Paulina is using.
Right. And what I'd like you to do is open the workbook and just follow along with me as I go through things, especially in a few minutes when I get to the more interactive part of the work of this workshop. Okay, so right now I'm just showing you some examples of papers. This is a research paper done by Thomas Schramm, who had based the paper on a conference presentation he did several years ago. And I just like it as an example. There's table of contents. There's lots of really great visualizations here. And also there's some interactive apps where you can move the sliders and change the visualizations. So this is, this is a research paper in the traditional sense. It has the mathematics, it has explanations, results, and so on. But it also has things that don't necessarily appear in a normal journal paper, as in, live math that you can execute, apps that you can you can play with, as well as 3D plots that you can rotate and adjust. So this is what we'd like to think of as a full Maple paper. So that's one example. And like I said, if you want to download the paper yourself, you just go to this article in Maple Transactions. So another paper also printed in the transactions is a student report. This is, let me just open this one. This is from Marcus Lindsay, who prepared this as a student project. It's a really nice paper. Now, of course, this is fantastic. Not all students will do something this elaborate, but a lot of students do final projects in their last years of studies that's in a research area or a topic of special interest. Not that uncommon. And I wanted to convey the idea to any students who are on the call or any instructors who run courses with student projects that Maple is really a fantastic platform for creating your project, for doing your project if it involves math, doing the visualizations, showing the math, and as a presentation tool, and using to submit the final report. So this is a very nice report that has lots of visualizations, equations that can be executed, also an interactive app within this project. And so, of course, I wasn't there when Marcus presented this project, but I imagine it was a very nice presentation that was had a lot of interesting interactive elements to it. So that's another example of the kind of document that you can do. And this also emphasizes the idea that Maple Transactions isn't just for your normal um, refereed, peer-reviewed paper. We're happy to accept student projects or even very short papers, short communications. We've had instructors say, I showed this really interesting example in my classroom to illustrate this mathematical topic. And it could be a very short communication, but if it's interesting to the Maple community, to certain members of the Maple community, then we would love to have it in the transactions. So one other thing that I wanted to mention is that it's great to use Maple for course notes. And especially now that we have this workbook format, which I'll say more about later, this makes it easier because the workbook format allows you to put a number of documents as well as other files all together in one workbook. Now, the example I want to show is actually embedded in Maple in our help pages. This is my colleague Edgardo Cheptarab, who did a mini course for physicists, and so he did this whole thing in Maple, and with lots of examples, very nice looking math. Nice looking plots, exercises, and so on. And we have some other examples. Robert Lopez has contributed a lot of teaching materials to Maple also, and so those also are available among the help pages. And then we also have, I know of other instructors at institutions outside Maplesoft who have developed very substantial course notes in Maple and have made those available for their students. All right, so those are a few examples of the sort of papers that you can create in Maple. And we'll go on. All right, let me say a bit about Maple Transactions. I won't talk about Maple Transactions too long because I assume that many of you had been there for Rob Corliss's talk yesterday. I'll just repeat, it's an open access online journal, and we seek all sorts of content, especially from anybody who has contributed here to the Maple Conference in giving a talk. We would love it if you could submit your talk to Maple Transactions. We're not doing a separate proceedings issue. And we found that in the past, what happened was that we wanted to try to get all the proceedings out at the same time, but then some papers came in a bit late, some reviewers were late. And so waiting until they were all collected meant that a lot of people had to the people who submitted early had to wait until everything's done. So now we're just saying, please just submit. It's not going to be part of an official proceedings, though it can be tagged as a proceedings paper, but just submit a paper. The normal criteria will go to it. But it also means that again, you don't have to give a full paper if you wanted to. If you created some really great visualizations in your presentation you wanted to share, and you wanted to just do a short note explaining that, then you can give it as one of the short communications. All right, let's see. Submission process. So how do you actually submit a paper? Rob showed this yesterday, but I wanted
Quick question, Paulina.
Yes.
Question from the chat. Is there a hotkey to toggle from text to non-executable math and to math?
Let's see. Okay. I used to use the F5 key, but I don't know if the ribbon interface has changed that. So maybe if any of my colleagues are here and know the answer to that, you can or the help page that describes that, I can or if you could test that out and confirm
Oh,
my
I
theory.
believe in the top left. So you have like the options for save. There's a little arrow to open to the right. So um, like just to the right of the save icon.
Oh, this.
Yes, under there, so if
Oh,
you highlight
yes.
text and then that text drop down, there's an easy way to
Yes,
click.
that's where the drop down went. Right. Okay. So I've been just using the insert menu to change. And I know the F5 hotkey used to work for me. I just don't remember if I've tried it recently.
It still works for me on the Mac.
Okay, perfect. All right. Any other questions?
None
Okay.
right now.
Okay. Well, it's reassuring to know that other people also have trouble finding some things in the ribbon, but I like it more and more as I get used to it. Um, it will take a while. And part of my talk today will be also showing you where different things are found in this new ribbon interface that help with creating documents. All right, let me just mention the submission process. So let's say you do want to submit something to Maple Transactions, go to this web page and basically read through the checklist and the guidelines. Now, if you want to actually make a submission, then you should create an account here. So I'm already logged in here, but you can create an account, and that doesn't commit you to anything. Basically, it just means you're in our system, and whenever you're ready to submit, then you submit under your name, and the whole process is automated. Then you could keep track of your paper, and you'll know whether it's under review, whether it's been accepted, and so on. You'll get a notification anytime the status changes for your paper. So that's what you need to do. Even before you read the submissions instructions, you can log in and create your account. Now, what else? Oh, yes. So if you go to the Maple submissions here, yes, here we go. So you could submit as a LaTeX file or Maple document workbook or Jupyter notebook, video, MS Word. So we have templates for most of these. Rob mentioned that he's going to add some instructions for Jupyter Notebook shortly. The Maple worksheet template is the one that's been there since Maple Transactions started. And I updated it recently to refer to the new ribbon interface. The contents are exactly the same, except that here, let me open up and show you. So if you go to your workbook palette, your workbook pane, so open the left-hand panel here and you click on workbook, you'll see empty worksheet template and empty worksheet template 2025. So this is even though we did not upload the 2025 template yet, it's here, so you can have it. And this is what the template looks like. It just lets you don't have to use it, but it'll probably make your life a bit easier. You can copy paste your content into here. And you could create a table of contents. You have to create manually. Now there is an automated way to create table of contents through the worksheet package, and I thought I wouldn't go through that now. It's a little bit complicated, but if you have a very complicated table of contents, you may want to do that. And there's just some instructions here on doing things, some of which I'll cover very shortly here in this workshop. And so the 2025 version just has the instructions changed to refer to the new locations where things are found. All right. So yes, so you could either go to our the Maple Transactions website to get the templates, or you can just use either of these here. Okay, so now I've gone through the presentation part of the workshop. Let's get into doing something. I'm assuming that you all have Maple in front of you, and hopefully you have this workbook. And ideally, you also have a copy of one of your own worksheets. The older and messier, the better, since we'll be able to make some. Hopefully, you'll think of them as improvements. So these are the steps that we're going to try in the next half hour or so to work through. And if you we may not get through all of them, but I've added notes about all the activities so you could try things on your own. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through each activity, and I hope that at the same time you'll try these activities as I'm talking on in your own copy of Maple. So if you have a worksheet file you want to update, go ahead. And otherwise, you could click on this explore command. It's an worksheet that's in our repository. And I'm not saying that there's something wrong with this worksheet and it needs updates, but it was created well before we have a number of the current features. And so it could be updated to take advantage of new things we have in Maple since that time. So you could take this and then save a copy of it for yourself and then make changes to it. And the nice thing is if you make changes to it, it won't wipe out the one in our help database, and you'll still be able to get that one back. All right. So the first thing is creating a workbook. A workbook has been around for a number of years now, and I really like using a workbook, but I've noticed that a lot of our users don't well, I wouldn't say they've never used a workbook, but they don't often present or share their material in a workbook. So I get the feeling it's a bit underused, this feature, and I wanted to bring some attention to it. So how do you create a workbook? The easiest way is to, oops, sorry, I have to, as everyone else, I have to keep hiding my Zoom control so they don't get in the way. So the easiest way is to go to the worksheet that you're working on, then go to this workbook pane on your left, and it says this file's not a workbook, save the file as a workbook. So all I need to do is just say save as workbook, and I'll call it my Explorer workbook. And you save it, and voila, it's now a workbook. It's a workbook with one document in it. Now, the next thing you might want to do is to add a file to it, and there are different ways you can do that. If you have an existing file that you want to add, so if I go workbook, let's see. If I say attach file, then I can go through my browser and find something that I might want to attach to it. So if I do that, let's say, well, just because I'll add another copy of my template, and there it goes. And there's some, if there's some saved images, it shows up here, so you can reuse them. So now my workbook has two things. And if I want to add a new page, all I have to do is go back to my workbook. So it's a little confusing because I've got two workbooks open, but which I have to keep track of. But here's this new workbook. If I want to add a file, so one thing I can do is say document to workbook, and now there's a new one. So I'll just call it another document. And now I have yet another document in my workbook. And you can also click on the workbook pane, and then you can, you can move things around. You can move the order. Okay, there. So you could, I'll close this, move the images down there. Okay, so now you can move things around. If I want this back as the first one, so then I just move it up. The first document is the one that people see when you open the workbook. So for example, this workbook has my outline, my overview of the entire presentation as the first one. And so let's see, what else do we want to do with workbook? Yeah, so changing the order of the workbook, you can also rename, click, and you can right click, rename, and do all sorts of things. And you can also do some of these things with the workbook tab up here. So that's a quick introduction to workbooks, and I hope you embrace the idea, because I find workbooks very useful. The next thing I want you to try is adding links. You've probably used links before because they've been in Maple for a long time. You can add a hyperlink to a URL. You can add one to a help page. But I'm not sure if you've tried adding a bookmark, and if you haven't, let's do that. So if you go to, let's see, I'll open my new document. Okay, first of all, I'm going to go to my Explore workbook, and I want to add a new bookmark somewhere here. Let's see, where's a convenient place to add a bookmark? Okay, parameters, initial value. So let's say I want to have a bookmark right here. So I'll go to Insert, Reference, Bookmark. And notice this page already has a bunch of bookmarks, but I'll add a new one, and I'll call it Parameters, and I'll create it. Okay, well, where's my bookmark? How do I know that I actually was successful creating it? If you go to the View tab and you click on Markers, then you can see that I've added a bookmark here. All right, now let me go back, and I want to, let's say in my brand new document, I want to refer to it. So let me do this. Insert, okay, I'll put some text. Let's add a bookmark. Hold on. Let's go to the parameters section of the Explore worksheet. So I'll click on parameters, insert insert a hyperlink here, and then I want to go to a worksheet. But where is this actually locate it. So if I don't know how to refer to that other worksheet, I'll leave this for a moment. If you go back to your workbook pane and you right click, then you can copy the path. Now let me try this other task again. Reference, hyperlink. Okay, I wanted parameters. That's not a big deal. Worksheet. Now I'll paste my link. Now this link I got from my workbook pane, and then which bookmark do I want? I have to find the parameters one somewhere down here. Reference, hyperlink. So target is the worksheet. Okay, now it should show parameters. Okay, yay. I finally did it. So now if I click on this, I jump to where my bookmark was. And if I want to see the details of this hyperlink, I just open the context panel and then I can make any changes I want here to the hyperlink. All right, so that's bookmarks. All right, next topic. Code edit regions. Lots to say about code edit regions. Again, this code edit region is a feature that's been around for quite a while now, but I think they too are underused. And I mean, I get it. I've programmed for a long time. It took me a while to embrace code edit regions just because I was just used to doing things in a certain way. And then once I got used to using code edit regions, I said, oh, this is much nicer, much tidier. So let's talk about that. Code edit regions. With any worksheet, you can open the startup code. So let me go to Home, Startup Code. Okay, there's nothing here. It's not very interesting, but I'll show you something a little bit more interesting. Let's see. Let me try to look at math apps here. So help, go to the math apps guide. Let me pick a math app here. Okay, here's a math app. And this is part of another section I'll be talking about later if I have time to do it. If you want to add interactivity to your presentations, like in the two example papers that I showed earlier, it's a nice way to use embedded components to do that. And I'll say more about that later, hopefully. But really the easiest way is to find a math app that has a bit of the layout that you like, and then you can use as a model to start building your own. And so if you go to the math apps and you want to look at what's going on here, so this is it's a math app that has a nice activity that shows how you can approximate the area of a circle. It has some math here, but what's going on behind the scenes? And so let's look at the startup code. So I'll go to Home and I can't click on the startup code. And that's because there's a little trick to looking at the math apps. Way at the bottom, there's a little tiny thing that says editable. You click on that, and then you can open up the startup code, and you can see the code here. Okay, so that's startup code, and I'll be getting back to that a bit more later. Now, the other thing is code edit region. That the startup code is just one example of a code edit region. But if let's go back to, let's go. Okay, this is the worksheet I was looking at. So let me go down and see if I could find some code that we can add to start. Okay, well here's something. Here's a bunch of code. Let's say I want to put that in a code edit region. Then I just go to Insert, code edit region. And then I can copy this in, and I can copy more stuff in. This in. All right, there we go. There's my code. Now I can get rid of this one too. Okay, so everything looks a little tidier. And let me tell you a few things I like to do with code edit regions. This one, if you open the context panel, you will see some properties of code edit regions. This one has autofit container, but my personal preference is to make the containers the size I want with scrolling, and so I usually will prefer to not use autofit, but that's a completely personal choice. So I'll just put it back to autofit for the moment. One thing that's nice is you can collapse it. You can open it, you can add line numbers or not. Another thing you have to remember is that you have to execute the code in the code edit region. It's not necessarily executed just because it's there. So when you first open the worksheet, doing execute all, or if you something like that will cause it to execute. If you're in here, you can press enter to actually execute. What else is there? Oh, another thing that tends to get me when I use code edit regions is sometimes I might copy code in an execution group to put it in there. Now, and I might do something like I might copy a single line to put in a multi-line code edit region, and I'll forget to add a colon or a comma at the end, and that happens a lot. So this is a good time to talk about syntax checking. If I do something here that is a syntax error, there's syntax highlighting, and if you want to adjust that, you can change the syntax checking level. Now, most people don't care about changing the syntax checking level, but I feel this is a good place for me to tell you maybe the most useful tip that you'll learn in this entire workshop, and it's where to find the options dialog, because it's obvious once you know where it is, but it took me a little while. You go to File, and then there's a little box at the bottom, Options, and then you bring up the Options window, you go to Display, and then you could change the syntax check level and other settings here. All right. Oh, one last thing. If you have a Maple language file, that's another way to open a code editor. So I added a file with MPL extension here to my workbook. And if you click on it, a code edit region comes up, a code edit window comes up for you. All right, let's go on to talking about sections and tables. I'm not going to say a lot about sections and tables because these two features have been around in Maple for a long, long time. So I expect you've all used them all. But I'm just going to talk about a few things that you might not have tried yet. And if your worksheet doesn't already have sections, you could try adding sections. And you do that by going to Insert, and then just add a section or two to try things out. But if you have a worksheet with sections, then you could go to the View tab, look in the Sections menu, and there's all sorts of useful things you can do. You can expand and collapse. You can you can hide the section boundaries if you don't like them. You can change the you can hide the arrow. And so there's different ways you could change the look of the sections. Now, when I give a presentation with Maple, especially if I'm executing code and showing the results, I like to start off after I've finished creating my content. What I like to do is go to evaluation, remove output from worksheet, and it will remove all the executed output. Then I'll go to sections and I'll collapse all sections so that I have a fresh presentation ready to go. I open each section, I execute everything one by one, and it's nice and clean.
Paulina, there's
Yeah.
a question from the chat. How do you change the Maple syntax check level? Is there a way to do it via command through, is it kernel ops assert level?
So it's probably a kernel ops level, but there's a few different things. There's a warning. You could check, you can change the warn level. I'm not sure about specifically adjusting the syntax checking in Mint, which is what's used. If any of my colleagues on this chat happens to know the answer, then please put it in the chat or answer. Otherwise, Mike, can you make a note of who asked that and the question, and then we'll find out the answer afterwards. But
Yes, and in the meantime, I would always suggest checking out the help page for kernel ops because it should all be documented
yeah,
there.
and for the warn level, that might be under interface. I'm not sure if that's kernel ops or interface. So look under the interface help page as well as the kernel ops help page, because a number of different settings involving the language would be in those two places.
Nothing else in the chat. Although there is a
Okay.
comment, well, no other questions, but this comment from Drew was really cool. He said that he likes to use a collapsed code edit region as a button where the first line is the caption. I think that's really creative.
Yes, actually, that's really that is nice. So yeah, thanks for that suggestion. That you saw that the first line was my code, but much nicer to put in a comment and describe what it does. Yeah, thanks for that suggestion. Okay, one other thing I wanted to show was, let me open these to say, that you may not have tried yet is the slideshow. So if I just click on slideshow from the view tab, I can get a slideshow of, hold on, of my worksheet. So very nice for presentations, and something that again has been around for a few releases, but not everyone has discovered yet. Okay, I mentioned removing output and collapsing sections. So people probably have tried tables before, and you can insert using tables. Sorry, you can insert a table using the insert tab. But I think a lot of people use tables because they have data they want, but don't necessarily think of a table as a way to improve the presentation of their worksheet or workbook contents. And so I tend to use tables for reasons like this, where I want to just show an overview of my content in a different form. Or tables are also used a lot in math apps. In fact, in many of our math apps, there's tables. And as I mentioned before, and I'll repeat again, don't forget to click the little editable button, because if you don't, then if I turn this off, let me see. If I have this on, I see the table. If I turn it off, well, Okay, maybe it's too late now since I have it already open, but if you forget to click the editable button, you won't be able to get at the table properties. But this one, you can customize however you like. You can change table borders, change sizes, change columns, and so on. And I think that's all I'll say about sections and tables. We have about 10 minutes left, and I'll just briefly talk about say a little bit more about how those math apps are created in case you haven't done it yourself. So you've probably used the Explorer command, you've used math apps, and you may say, well, how could I create something like this for myself? It's I wouldn't say it's trivial, but it's actually not that hard once you get used to the idea. So there's lots of information on the embedded components help page, and some of our math apps can be quite complicated with different interactions amongst many different components. But let me see if I can show you how to create a really simple example. So first of all, what I did here was I inserted a table. So you just go to insert table, and then so you could try this on your own. Let me see if I can replicate what I did here. So insert table. I had 2 rows, 1 column. So here's my table. Now you may want to do things like change the alignment. So what was it? So to have things show up in the center. Okay, so there's my table. Then how I insert these components is I go to the palette and I start inserting things. So this one is a drop-down box, and this one is a plot. Okay, then you may want to do some things like change the size of the plot so it's a little bit more so it fits your screen better. So here I change plot. And if I go to this one, I can add things here. And I'll add an item sign X, and then add another item. X squared. Okay, so now I have my combo box. Now how to connect the two together? Well, I'll go back to the one I had already created. And if I look again at the properties, and it says edit select code. So in edit select code, I have this code, use document tools in, because all these commands come from the document tools package. And so first it says get property combo box value. What this is saying is this embedded component is called combo box 0. So it says go to that component, take its value. And the select codes uses a parse, because the combo box value is just a text string instead math. So I had to get the math out of it. And I'll say, okay, I want to make a plot from that. And then I want to set the value of plot 0, the embedded component plot 0. And if you click on the second component, well, that's what the if you go top, whoops, hold on. I want the component. You see, now it says this is plot 0. So you get the component name, and that's how things are connected together. So a few mentions in a proper math app, if you have something more complicated, instead of instead of adding instead of having the select code all here, what I'd probably do is just have a single procedure call, and I would put the procedure in the startup code. So I would execute that code in the startup code, and then I would just call the procedure with whatever arguments I want to give it. And that way it makes the code much easier to maintain, especially if you have different components that have to reuse bits of code. I often, when I create the math apps, and you'll see if you look at examples of math apps, everything's saved in a module. So there'll be shared data that persists, and then there'll be local routines and exports that you'll call from the components, and that keeps everything nice and tidy and makes the code much more maintainable. So yeah, I really just wanted you to get a feel for how these are put together. Each of these embedded components has a name. You use the document tools package to refer to these components and use code to be able to link them together and link actions together. And that's pretty much the first steps in creating your interactive app. So let me just go back to my original. There's one final bit of.
Just before you do, there's
Yeah,
another quick question in the chat. Is
sure.
it possible for a component to identify its own name via command?
Well, I guess, oh, you mean kind of like in like this proc or this module? Possibly, I don't know offhand. Uh, I think there must be some command and document tools to do that. I just don't have it at hand. But if you go to the embedded components or document tools help pages, there should be some, more information about this.
Thanks.
So I'm just going to spend a minute on this slide because really I had already talked about this in my earlier talk, and if you weren't there, that's okay. I really just wanted to refer to some of the other places in our Maple community. Maple Primes is a great resource. The Application Center is also a very nice resource where people share their applications, including us staff members. If we have something that didn't go into the product proper, but we wanted to share. And Maple Primes is our forum where people ask questions, share interesting results, and so on. And now we also have Maple Transactions. So now that I've talked about how to create papers and reports in Maple, there's no reason why you shouldn't find it easy to submit something to Maple Transactions and tell us about your work. And just a few extra things about printing and exporting. You can it probably would take me another hour to talk about all the different kinds of exports we do. So I'm just going to say, just be aware that you can do all these things. And there's a new print layout mode that you might have missed. And you go to the view menu and click on print layout, and there you go. Okay, I am going to stop sharing so I can see who's here in my last minute and say thank you all for attending. As I mentioned, we're really hoping that when we decide to do this third day of workshops, we didn't know whether we'd get 5 people or 50, and actually way more people attended than I thought. So I hope that you'll stay around for our other 2 workshops by my colleagues, Alan Woodcoff, who will be talking about differential equations. That will be a very, very useful workshop, I'm sure, to many of you. And then my colleague John May will be talking about his experiences with the advent of code, but there'll be lots of really useful tips and fun things to do in Maple to share.